It's good to see all of you again. We've met, I think, before. My name is Matt Winslow. I'm a professor in the psychology department, and I'm also the director of FCT&L initiatives, and I'm a foundation professor. And I'm happy to be here today because Rusty's not feeling well. Have you heard of that going around? So a lot of it happening. I don't know if it's something blooming or if it's really just illness, but it's going around, so I'll be careful. But today we're really excited to have two people here who are going to talk to you about advising, which is a really critical part of the faculty role. I don't know if you have been asked to do advising already, or if you're being delayed before you get into that. There are a variety of ways of doing it, but it's a really important thing. So we're happy to have two people here who are experts in this area to talk to you about it. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Matt. We'll put up our little, I'm not very good with the clicker. I'm just going to go ahead and warn you. I have done this presentation several times, so I could almost do it in my sleep. But ultimately, our goal here today is everybody is going to be kind of in a different journey on if you've been advising, maybe you've advised somewhere else, maybe you're planning to advise, but we're going to talk about some kind of basics, tools, and overview. But our goal, as always, we want you to get something out of this. So we'll have lots of room for questions at the end. So if there's something you've seen or you have concerns about, or you want to know more about what happens, we are happy. That's kind of our favorite method, is that kind of like quick shot questions. Lindsay said she would also take pop culture questions. And we'd like to really change her. So, but my name is Bethany Warner. I'm the director of the Office of Advising and Career Services. So really work with our Success First and Exploring students, and then just on some different advising and retention initiatives. Also have kind of the career services group underneath my purview. So working with students is kind of just one of my favorite things. So.
And I'm Lindsay Greenwell. I'm in the provost office as the Senior Director for Academic Affairs Advising Strategy, specifically working with our faculty to make sure you all have the tools and support you need to be great advisors, along with the professional advisors in the college as well. And like Bethany said, supporting our students, right? And when I work with students and I advise, I'm like, it's not that I don't want you here, but I want to get you out of here as quickly and efficiently as possible. And so kind of what those conversations look like.
So we're going to talk about advising sort of as an overview, a little bit of how it goes into retention, and then we're going to talk mainly about two tools today. We're not going to expect you to be an expert in either one of these tools. We just want this to be an introduction to those tools. And then Lindsay also provides some amazing professional development too, specifically for faculty advisors as you kind of are gaining that knowledge. Some of you guys may even be advising at this time because it is the advising period, or you may be hearing students talking about advising. So kind of time this, imagine that with FCT&L to be here kind of at a time where this is something that's coming up in different students' journeys. So just to talk a little bit about kind of retention and advising, Lindsay and I are currently working with a committee in retention. And one of the first things that we found, we did a lot of different journey mapping. So ultimately what that is we looked at students from different modalities, from different population types. We looked at students that are, fitting our first generation profile, adult, transfers, Pell eligible, all kinds of different personas. And we looked at the experiences that they were having at EKU around all things, not just advising, not just the financial aid side, not just the academics. We really looked at the students' whole journey. And then we did a whole lot of data calculation, a lot of grouping and theming. But the very first thing that came up for us, which was very exciting, was that advising really serves as an anchor for students. Doesn't matter if it's a first-year student, doesn't matter if it's a graduating student, a transfer, a new student. Advising is one of those touch points that just creates consistency across the student experience. Within sort of our retention initiatives, we have some different things that I know you guys are very familiar with, like our progress reporting. So progress reports are very much used by advisors to help identify and kind of early alert problem areas. Within retention, especially for our first and second year students, we also do some different communication surveys that also put them into what we call a swim lane that's based on different concerns they may have. So maybe they're saying, I have an academic concern. I want to know more about academics. Maybe they're telling us I'm completely career driven and all I'm worried about is getting out of here as efficiently as possible. Kind of just have some different communication lanes that we put them in, and it helps us be a little bit more intentional with support. Our intervention systems, so we have what's called an intervention team that kind of works through our enrollment management, retention, and graduation system that works a lot with our first year students right now. But that's one of the things that Lindsay and I are working on, is just making sure that those supports are across the entire student life cycle. One of the ways that we currently keep that support alive is through advisors and advising. We know that students are going to their advisors and asking a lot of those same early alert questions. And so we want to make sure that that's a robust experience.
I think,
Go
can
ahead.
I say one other piece just about the progress reports? We do the unsatisfactory progress reports. Those are the red flag, right? But then there's also, good job.
Yeah.
Like, way to go, like, keep it up. And that encouragement piece and trying to make that connection with the student as well, so that it's not just, I'm not reaching out to you because, oh, you're struggling, but hey, like, you've got a B at midterm in Math 105. That is amazing. Like, keep it up. And to be able to encourage those students as well.
Yes. Those comment boxes, if
Yeah.
you can take the time to provide those types of comments, they are helpful within advising structures. And then you are going to have students in different modalities also use some of those commenting things. There may be a student that you're teaching in an online modality that some of those comments, those extra comments you're putting on, that is really a big part of their experience here. We have some different processes that are also a part of the retention process, especially for first year students. Students that have over 3 unsatisfactory progress reports go on academic warning and really get some really intentional interventions to try to help them turn around. And then for our first semester students, if their GPA is below, estimated midterm GPA is below 1.5, there's also just some really intentional things that we're trying to do to help them get things turned back around. So I could talk about that for a lot longer, but let's go on and move to advising tools. Lindsay and I are both really excited about spring break too. So I just need to go ahead and give you that forewarning. So if you are unfamiliar, our advising model at EKU is very much dependent on what college you're a part of. So we do have, as kind of Lindsay already mentioned, faculty advisors, staff advisors. We also have different places that are providing advising support that maybe aren't really in that faculty or staff role, or they're a support like our NOVA program or our athletics advising, which is our Bradsky Center. So we have sort of a mix of a lot of different things going on. We also have, really consistent or specific touch points in each college for advising. So you want to talk about those a little bit, advising leads and okay.
So in your college, your associate dean is kind of the first contact for advising, but then every college now has an advising center with a lead advisor as well, who is another great resource to help with, trainings. And you might get some communication when you start advising, either from your associate dean or from your lead advisor. But those advising centers are new within the past year. So we're all still trying to figure that out and get our feet under us for a good kind of process with that. But every college does have professional advisors who are working with different populations again, and that's going to vary by college as well. But trying to make sure we're supporting the students, but also supporting those of us that are advising and getting us all the information we need as well to be successful.
So just to answer this one, because this is often one, if you are interested in being an advisor after this amazing presentation that you're gonna get, working really with your department chair and then, you know, associate deans often, depending on your college, every college kind of has a little bit different identity. So working with them to kind of raise your hand or say, hey, I think I'm ready for this. Or they might be coming to you and saying, we think you're gonna be great.
I might have already come to me,
Okay,
like,
and
you
you
need
may
to
be doing it
please help.
now. But just kind of some baseline things that you have to have in order to have this advising access is you have to do a FERPA training, you have to do a data trustees training, you will be trained on DegreeWorks. A lot of our advising systems work through a portal that exists in Slate. You may know a little bit about Slate. You may know nothing about Slate. You don't have to know everything about Slate to be an advisor, but it can be a helpful tool. So when you do your access, you will get some baseline Slate access, and then you'll get access to Advising 360, which is our advising portal.
And Slate, just in case you're not aware, that is our communications kind of management system. So sending out, it's where students access Slate when they apply to the university. So all of that comes through there. So the applications are in there, communications that the students get, if they're missing something from their application, missing a transcript. Big East Central, once they're admitted, that goes into a different instance of Slate. And so Big East Central is sending information about financial aid through Slate. That's where we as advisors through Advising 360 are making notes on students. Because sometimes our friends, I like to call students friends, right? So sometimes our friends will maybe go over to Big East Central and they'll be like, my advisor just is missing, like they have not responded to me. And what's great is that somebody could pull that student up in Slate and be like, well, actually your advisor's Lindsay, and it looks like you no-showed 3 appointments with her. So let's talk about how, you know, not connecting. I like to think of it sometimes because my child's getting close to college age, 2027. And so, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, well, mom said this, but I'm gonna now go ask dad, or I'm gonna go ask grandma. Well, actually, we have a ticket of all the things that you said to me. And so that was really cute that you think you can graduate with 100 hours when really it's 120 and nobody ever told you it's 100, you know. So to be able to keep track of some of those things when we're talking with students is really useful.
Definitely helps with some of the transparency and fact finding that
Yes.
Lindsay do a lot in our.
We do a lot of fact finding.
Yes. So within and some of our tools, there is lots of opportunities for other development and information. So like once you do your advising training, it isn't just like, oh, you know it now and
You're
goodbye,
done.
you don't have any resources. We do provide some resources within Advising 360. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about other professional development opportunities that Lindsay also provides. So our tools live within your MyEKU. So DegreeWorks and Advising 360 are our main tools. Advising 360 is also sometimes called the Loop. Advising 360 is kind of the main portal, and then the Loop is the individual student page. But to get to these things, you can go in through your MyEKU. DegreeWorks has its own lovely icon on your tools and apps. And then once you get advisor access, you will receive an advising card, which I'm sure you guys may have already noticed your faculty card got a little jazzy update recently.
And the advisor card.
The advisor card is going to get a
little.
little icon based update, but this is what it looks like at this exact moment. I checked last night. So this is a place where you have also just some links that are going to be available to you. But there's lots of different ways you can get into some of these systems. So these are just the main two ways. Ultimately, we are working on some pretty strategic initiatives with advising, but right now, just kind of as we think about breaking down advising sessions, this is something that we came up with that we think are just important points of the advising session. I will also say, for me, as somebody who works a lot with first-time freshmen, new students that are often a little underprepared, just so you know, to me, advising isn't just that one time that you might meet with students to talk about the courses that they're going to get. It's kind of more about multiple times, different interventions. So it is a little bit framed for the course meeting, but there's also advising means a lot of things to a lot of different people and a lot of different students.
So I've got a question on that. How can we get what I would call almost dashboard data, right? So I advise 77 students, I would have to go through manually and figure out where the needs are. Could you put together some sort of a dashboard, maybe you have it already, that says, hey, Dr. Mitchell, here are the 10 that you need to reach out to right now. Here are the ones that basically are doing a good job, and spot on. One of the things I've learned is I have really talked to students, hey, we reached out to you 7 times and you never returned the email. Yeah. Right? And that just clogs up the system. So if we can, poor Shelley Stocker, who does it for our college, that woman sits there. It's unbelievable how manual her system is, and she doesn't know what it is. But we could have some sort of a dashboard that categorizes these students. That would be a very useful tool.
So Advising 360 does some of that, so we'll talk about that in a second, but also if there's somebody else that's on advisor or administrative professional that is working with you guys, Lindsay can help facilitate some reporting that could exist through Slate that might make some of that stuff more efficient.
Bit
So,
easier.
yeah.
Some of the, like, part of the retention piece, some of that communication is automated. Like, hey, you might want to check in on your progress report. Some of that's automated, but for faculty to be able to get that list, that's like, hey, these were the students that aren't doing well. That's what we're working on.
Yep.
Again, for
Some
you.
sort of a dashboard.
Yeah.
And it categorizes the students. There's some that don't need to worry about it. They'll come in, they're ready to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
categorize them.
We do that a little bit with the retention indicator, which
Right.
that we have a retention indicator that's on the students, but reporting too, I think would help
Yep.
because if you've got very manual processes, it could
Like I said,
also sort by
This
that.
big data tells us where to go.
So within our advising sessions, we're really thinking about, and this is kind of more geared a little bit to that course planning, because for some of your students, they don't need anything until the day that they say, I need my rack number and I need it today, and why haven't you sent it to me already? But ultimately, we really do want to help students have a person, and a lot of times an advisor ends up sort of playing this role. So looking to connect with the student, encourage the student. Oftentimes, these are in a faculty role. This is someone who's going into your profession. They have great energy and excitement about your field. And so you're in a wonderful space to help them make those connections. Doing sort of a general check-in. For me, check-in involves personal and academic. So how are things going with you? How are you transitioning to college? How is this first class that you took, your first 300 level, or you're in your senior capstone? How are things going? And seeing how things are going, and then seeing what we need to do because of things are going. Every time, lots of students have some sort of distrust with different systems. And so sometimes the second time you met with a student, it's like, oh, they know me now and they're going to tell me a little bit more. But the first time it's more like, oh no, I'm doing fine. No, everything's great. I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing. And I've all A's. And then you're like, oh, well, I can see your midterm grades. They are good, but I just want to talk to you about some of these things. So it is this relationship kind of piece that I think that's why we really like it. But it can be a little bit challenging. We do want in advising sessions, especially around course planning, we want you to use the DegreeWorks tool. We also really are pushing for plans to be submitted. So DegreeWorks plans are basically an outline of what the student will take that semester. The university has created some efficiencies around plans to try to help with dissemination of plans, but we still want advisors to meet with students because we know that's really where a lot of that valuable learning comes from. The last one, and we're going to talk more about this one within the Advising 360 tool, but this is also often a time where you're referring a student to something. So maybe they've discussed a different challenge that they're having. Maybe they've told you they have a food insecurity or they need something that they don't have.
Still there. We discussed in our college actually having a Canvas site where I could go through and if the student comes in and expresses a certain concern, I can assign something to them. Okay, so we could be very, very surgical and proactive. So, hey, I need you to reach out, take this class, look at this advising, show me, we could actually as instructors, advisors, act as instructors to basically have Canvas drive them to need to. IT said, no, won't do it. But that would be an incredible tool if we can get it, so we can be very proactive and we could have one-for-one. I told you to go look at this as far as how to improve whatever, how to get ready. And I've got a report here that says you didn't do it.
Yeah. And I think reporting like that is available.
So how do we
Um,
guarantee to help us?
Well, so it would be in
It
advising,
won't be a Canvas site.
it won't be Canvas, but in advising 360, you can make a note for a student and actually refer them to, again, if I'm going to use food insecurity, to the Colonel's Cupboard. And then the Colonel's Cupboard would reach out to that student, and then that's all tracked in
Because
Slate.
it's all tracked. So then the reporting piece is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's tying it back in to
It's
know
tying back in
who we're
to pull
doing.
that out, to know who was referred, who was held.
So someone in Colonel's Cupboard would go in and say, yes, they did show up. Thank
Yeah,
you.
they would track that.
Yeah.
And the
'cause-
same with like the Student Success Center that's here in the library does referrals as well through there to refer students. STEM, what's it, the STEM, what's it called?
Excellence Center.
Yes, Excellent Center, thank you. Is in there as well. And so you can go and make those referrals. One that I do an awful lot, just because of the population I typically work with, is our Office of Military and Veterans Affairs, to be able to connect those students, and then they refer as well. And again, it's all tracked in there to be able to pull reports on.
I'll need to learn how to.
I know. I think that's one of the things too.
Yeah.
Lindsay and I are really trying to make sure, and this is why I like to come to things like this, is because there's a lot of things that we say we need, we want, we this, but when we get other voices that also
That are
are
like,
telling us,
It's not just us.
yeah,
That want this.
it helps
there's a
us
bigger
to
voice.
push some of those things forward. So just really quickly, okay, DegreeWorks is a platform that we use for degree tracking. So the registrar's office is our DegreeWorks master, but ultimately this is a tool where you and the student can go in and view what the student needs to graduate. We are going to have a fun catalog change for 2026, so it will look a little bit different, but ultimately this is a place and a tool that, especially if you're someone that works with students throughout their life cycle, maybe you're going to have a student from the time that they're a freshman to a senior, or it's going to be in kind of after they've got a few hours under their belt. Especially when we're talking about closer to graduation, I always encourage us to be like, hey, did you look at your DegreeWorks? Hey, you can look at this all the time. You're going to have some students that might email you and be like, I noticed this on my DegreeWorks. I don't have many of those, but I have one that is like, I noticed this change. I noticed this change. But it's a way that students can view things in addition to advisors. It really helps to make it very clear what is still needed, what is insufficient, because sometimes that's a conversation we're having with students. This doesn't count. This grade doesn't suffice for what we need for our major requirements, but this is going to be the big list of the classes that they need.
And for some students, you're still holding their hand, but you're kind of pushing them in that direction of like, you need to be responsible for what you need. Like, let's look at it together. What do you see? What's standing out to you? Because then I mean, I had a girl last week, I'm going to take this whatever class. And I said, why are you taking that? Oh, my friend's taking it and she's a nursing major. I'm like, you're not a nursing major, so I don't suggest you take that course. And she's like, oh, it'll be like a free elective. I was like, you don't need free electives. Like, let's pull up your audit and look at it together. Because there's just this, oh, I'm just going to take what I want. It's college. And it's like, yes, like I want you to explore other things, but I need you to explore within the parameters of the 120 hours, and kind of what that looks like. And then also, years ago, when I was working with Homeland Security, that program, which has a different title now, and I can't remember. So sorry if you're teaching over there, I can't remember the new name. But it has a capstone course. And I had a student who's a sophomore, and they're like, I'm going to take HLS 495. I was like, but you're not. And they're like, well, but I need it. And I was like, you do, but let's get some other things done first before we jump into the capstone. And so again, just to have the conversation of like, there's a reason some of these courses are in a numerical order, because we're saving some of them for the end. And so to kind of just walk through that with them, is really important.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't pass the box around. I
okay,
forgot.
I'm sorry, I'll put up my teacher's voice. Thank you, okay.
Second one.
Okay.
What was the second one? Okay, so what happens if a student changes his or her program? Or if the school has enhanced that program, and so now the student has a choice. I can remain under this program because I came in the year 2024, but I like the changes to the new program. It still has the same name. Okay, and since they're sophomore, junior, whatever, they're basically thinking, hey, maybe I want to change to the new catalog. So my question is, well, obviously, if they change to an updated program or even a new program, how is that seen within Degree Works? Will it still show both, or will it just default to the current program that the student is basically in? How does that work?
That is I'll take this because I have students do this all the time. So, if a student wants to change their major, that is a major change form. And if they want to change a major, add a minor, add a certificate, if they're dual degree, now they want to not do dual degree, whatever they want to do, change modality.
Or change catalog.
Or change catalog. It is a major change form. And so the students can find that in my EKU. It is visible to us as well, but if you click on it, you get a warning if you're not enrolled. And it's
Want
like,
you to be a
can't
student.
do this. But the student should be able to click on it and do it. And so then that gets processed through the registrar's office, and then their audit would be updated accordingly. And so those are conversations to have, though, because sometimes, again, I'll pick on Homeland Security because we had a course change. And so students in the new catalog didn't need this one course, but it was 310. Students in the older catalog did.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, oh, I want to change catalogs because I don't want to take 310. Okay, well, that's great. But gen eds also changed that year. So now your gen eds are going to look different. And so to have those conversations with students, about, okay, what is this going to look like? Because maybe there is one less course now that you don't need in this new catalog for your major, but what else is, what does that ripple effect look like? So based on what is active in Banner, which is kind of the internal, our record system, is based on, that is what should be reflected in Degree.
And so sometimes that does mean, and this is a much more advanced training, that there might be a petition that needs to be submitted because the catalog has changed and this course is still going to count in this area, but it's not for this exact catalog. So that's like a much more in-depth.
Yeah,
fun
there's
training
a
that
whole
Lindsay
different training on
provides
petitions,
too.
because again, like I'm looking at like HCA. So HCA used to be HSA,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
and so petitions for some of those courses.
Yeah.
Because maybe it was an older course or, and again, I hate to keep picking on Homeland Security, but I'm like, all right, Psych 200. So they had Psych 200 as a requirement, but they would accept it if it was old. And again, just petitions for those things. But again, that's all second. That was training.
Yeah, just a follow-up question on what you're indicating. Who else has to sign off on this? Because it's a change of program or a change of modality. Is there at least a couple of different?
There are.
Different signatures
Yes.
as a safeguard?
There are. So I'll speak of change of modality because not every program is available online. So if a student goes and selects they want to change modality, it only shows what's available. And so you'd be surprised with how many students are surprised they cannot do an associate of nursing degree online.
Or
Or
chemistry.
Chemistry or aviation.
Oh, yeah.
That we had a lot of conversations.
We have a lot of those
Aviation.
conversations. This.
They're like, I'm gonna do
Not
aviation online. I'm like, not here. Maybe somewhere else offers
You
that.
can take a virtual aviation program and fly virtual airplanes.
There you go. Up to this. And so again, when you select modality on that major change form, it only brings up
It's a very.
what's available. That one gets routed differently. If I do a major change, it's usually based on hours. And if it's somebody who is close to graduating,
Oh,
and if they have over, is it 190
Almost not.
credit hours? It used to be 105.
Yeah.
If I've earned over 90 hours and I want to change my major, there is an approval process, because is that gonna keep you here longer?
Yeah.
Do you realize what that's gonna cost? Or are you gonna get out of here quicker? So there is a little approval process on that. The idea, hopefully, is that a student is doing a major change and they've talked to somebody.
Yes, that's always the idea.
That's always the hope.
Yeah, I have one question related to that. If we do change a major, because students already took certain subjects, now if they want to change the major, the new catalog will tell the different story as you explained that.
Yeah.
But how their transcript will reflect?
Their transcript will reflect whatever is current in the system.
So like if you had a name change or anything, the
Yeah.
catalog will still, it will list the new, whatever the catalog year name is.
That the students.
The course, like the transcript won't change the course requirements as long as they're counting on the transcript. It's not gonna designate whether they're like a major requirement or not. So the transcript part wouldn't change, but that name, like, so if it was, HSA went to HCA and I'm now HCA, my transcript is just gonna say HCA.
Updated.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah. It won't really show my history. It's gonna show more of like a
The
point in time
current-
view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but if course prefix is changed, student's transcript is gonna show old course prefix, not the new one.
If that's the
Yeah.
one they
Yeah.
put,
That's what
yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may substitute that course, but.
Yeah.
Transcript, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I understood your question the whole way. Yes, it's gonna show the attempted course,
It's gonna show the attention.
but as long as it counts or is given a petition in the new heading, it's gonna count for graduation, but it's gonna show the old course name.
Old course.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry. Program name, current,
Program name.
old
current.
course name, this is gonna be the old course name. Sorry.
Thank you. Also, I have a question about the modality.
Mhm.
So there are two modalities, face-to-face and online,
Mhm.
but most of the programs are hybrid in nature. Like we have, we have some classes online, some classes face-to-face. So now you say people have changed the modality. I was not aware that there is an option in the major change form.
So it is just if you want your modality to completely be online. That's really kind of the only change. Those hybrid programs aren't really on,
They're considered.
they're
on
considered.
campus.
on-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is different rate, like online
There
has
is
a little bit different rate, their tuition structure is a little bit different. On campus, even if there is, like,
Even-
say there is a course in your program, because this is true for many programs. Maybe there's one course that's always only offered online. It is still, if they're an on campus, they're gonna get that on
They're gonna
campus
get that on
rate.
campus rate.
Yeah,
I was working on a program change recently, and one of the things I saw on the top in that program change system,
yeah,
it showed the program is offered in a traditional modality face-to-face, right? And there was a box below it, online. So I knew that we could offer the program online also, so I also checked that
Yeah.
box. So now the program will be offered in two modalities, and there will be consequences of that, so we will have to choose the modality and all that.
these are, I like
Yeah,
the
these are good
questions,
questions.
okay.
This is my first time doing
Yeah.
this presentation. if you
Well,
can't tell.
then Lindsay's here for the first time. Just to show the plan really quick, and if you're not currently an advisor, you may not have ever seen this before. You do have to have actual assigned advisees for a term in order to have access to the planner. But ultimately, this gives you the option to plan by semester. So important really for that transparency for students of what am I supposed to be taking for the fall advising that we're doing right now. So just makes it very clear. It does have some ability to drag from the catalog. You can see this is the old screenshot that I needed to update because it has the old gen ed on it, but ultimately drag things over, and then their program requirements are also going to show. So you have the option to drag things, and then you will also have the option to actually type in a course. If you are somebody who has been here a while or likes to type things in like me, you can just type in the course, because I know there's certain courses that they're going to be taking for certain programs. If you prefer to do that, you can do it too. You cannot enter a class that doesn't exist. if it's still taught or if it's still in the catalog, which sometimes it's not available for that semester, but it's in the catalog, you can enter it in the plan. Oh, hold on, I give you a microphone. Chris will get me if I don't behave.
You were great.
So if you are, so as an experienced advisor, how long per student does your average advising meeting take? What, assuming that they're not completely going off the rails and it goes way longer and you walk them somewhere and.
Well, I'll say, so also supervise 5 advisors. We have 30-minute sessions. There are times that it takes a little bit longer or we have to do a follow-up. But usually we can do most things in 30 minutes. Sometimes it is like, okay, we got to triage. What's the most emergent problem? Is it that we haven't done any of the things and we really need to do a deep dive into how do we get you caught up? Or can we do both? One of the things I do like about the planner, because I had a student like that yesterday. He had one big emergent issue that took probably about 15 minutes for us to get through. But then because he did have a little bit of idea about his curriculum, I put his list of classes in the plan and I said, look back at this plan. When we get done, if you have questions or if you think of something you missed today, shoot me an email and I can help you navigate it that way. Most things I think can be solved in 30 minutes. There are some programs that you guys may work with that have 45-minute sessions, but most sessions on, like if someone is using a scheduler, are set up for 30 minutes. If you're doing like a pre-program where students have to apply or there's like a portfolio in play or different things like that, and that's not always an advising level conversation, but there are some programs that will do a 45-minute plan. But most of our set up.
Yeah, and same, my experience as a professional advisor, my modality was online. So I rarely met with a student face to face. We were usually on the phone and they were usually at a drive-through while we were talking. And so I would typically do 30 minutes. But something else that we would do, and I think a lot of our programs are doing this still, especially for our online populations that maybe had, like HCA has a pre-program and we offer that online. Our paralegal program is offered online and they have in-person requirements that they need to be made aware of for the American Bar Association. We would do kind of like a welcome session. So like, hey, you started in the spring, you're new, we're going to have a virtual session to kind of go through some of these specifics. We have a fire program that is also on, it is online, but the students have to come to campus for a residency requirement. And so again, would have these informational sessions that again, it's advising, but it's more of like a group because this is going to impact everybody. But 30 minutes was typically what most of us would do as well. Now, and sometimes that was 30 minutes, maybe every 2 weeks, because something else has come up and they've got another question and you'll get some that'll just want that 30 minutes. Like they'll just kind of come and continue to meet with you because you're, for the online population, most of the time you've become their person. And so they want to connect with you. But I think 30 minutes is pretty average.
I have a question on that. Is there a method to, I'm sorry. Is there a method that a student could use to prep before the advising session? Because if they can do a little bit of homework, then they are a whole lot more focused. And the dialogue is going to be better. It's going to be more enriched, and you guys can get through in 15 minutes. Because if you're working 8-hour day, you can only see 15, 16 students at best.
Oh, yeah.
And you times it by, 16,000 students here, the math just doesn't work out.
So one of the things I also suggest is depends on.
Sorry.
I was a baseball player. Somebody is like really judging me right now. Ultimately, like it really depends on your program. I work again with a lot of underprepared students. So my students probably can do this. But as you guys kind of grow how this works, you can have in your email communication that goes out to students that says, hey, I have a plan for you. You want to review that plan? They can enter their own plan too. So maybe you don't want them to have your plan. You say, you can put a plan in and I can take a look at it. There's different ways that you can kind of help them learn that piece too. Dr. Winslow, you wanna?
Yeah, what I've developed is a form, Microsoft form or a Google form, and just a little link and it asks them a bunch of questions. Right, so it's part of my communication to them. I say, hey, we're gonna have advising meetings. Click on this link to fill out this form, and then I can look at the form ahead of time. And it includes, one of the key questions, actually, I have a very key question that they fill out when they sign up. Have we met before? Because, I wanna know that before before I see them face to face or on video, because it can get awkward. If we have met before and I don't remember them, that's awkward. But if we haven't met before, then I know, okay, now I need to ask the student a whole bunch of big questions because I don't know. And so, that form I think is quite helpful.
We did that, we told them exactly what they needed to do, what they needed to fill out, they sit down. And our advice would be some of them lasting as little as 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I think you'll get students like that who are like, yes, tell me what you need, like, and again, when I had Homeland Security, most of them were non-traditional age students coming from the military, so they were like, give me my marching orders, how many hours do I need? Yes, ma'am, I'm off. But when I was working with psychology, it was a little more, is this class hard? What does this look like? How is this teacher? Will I get an A? Like they're asking me all these kind of reflective questions. So a lot of it just depends on the personality of your programmer or your students. But with the scheduler, which I think, are we talking about that? Or that might be.
I didn't really, I said it was too in depth.
Okay.
That's what you think.
Well, so we do have a feature with Slate, that is a scheduler link. And you can create your own time. It connects, with your Outlook calendar. Students can click, but you can customize what that email communication looks like. So, hey, before we meet, reminder, we're meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Before we meet, make sure to do X, Y, and Z. Because I know mine, I had to add in, please make sure you're at a computer.
Yeah.
Before we meet, because it's going to be a whole lot easier to help you register if you're sitting at a computer. Again, I was mostly doing it over the phone. I have very few in person advising.
So just to show too efficiency as well, we do have the option to release the rack number from the plan. So if your student is an on-campus modality right now, if we're doing it for right now, we've got talks about the future. If you check their plan as active and locked within the advising period, they will receive an email that has their registration access code and a list of the classes in their plan. It's also available in their Slate timeline. So if you're someone who's familiar with Slate, that's a new feature. So you can go in and resend it. We found that this was an efficiency that advisors wanted because they were getting emails after the fact. They were like, I can't find my rack. I can't do this thing. And so this was a way that we created to help that be reinforced. The other piece too is, and this is maybe not Lindsay's favorite thing sometimes, but if they're an on-campus student, they can search for classes from the plan. So they can actually view the plan within registration. They have to have a rack number to get in there first, but they can click on DegreeWorks plan and see the current term classes and then search. If you have, like my team does, a lot of our students are a little bit more academically underprepared and struggle with some of those systems. And so this allowed for, they're going to be taking English 102R, so it can click view sections and see that class specifically. All right, so Advising 360 is the portal that we've mentioned several times, but ultimately this is the home portal for advising, does have some reporting availability, has some things about appointments and how to use the Slate scheduler, has some process pieces, and then also has sort of those reminder trainings in case maybe you got trained to be an advisor in the fall, but they didn't actually decide you were going to be advising until later on. So you can go back to some of those trainings, and Lindsay and I are going to work to update those together to make them match also what she's providing. But just it's sort of supposed to be a one-stop for different things that you may need for advising. I'm not going to go through every piece of it just because there's an advanced training for that. But ultimately, we can also talk about some of the other functionalities, especially as kind of questions arise through this piece. Within Advising 360, and this is probably the main way that most advisors use this, if you are assigned as a primary advisor to students or a supplemental advisor, you can, on that second tab, which is advisees, see a list of your advisees. I will say at EKU, we have a little bit of a generous stop out program. So if a student is in a good standing, they weren't removed from the university for any issue, and they just stop out, we don't automatically take them off everybody's roster. So there can be students on your roster that aren't currently here for this semester. So you do have the option to sort by register right here, which is what I do a lot of times with my students. If you are advising for multiple programs, you can also sort by program. Maybe you're really trying to look at a specific program or a couple students. You can sort really pretty much any of these columns within Advising 360. If you're an Excel fan and you want to export this to Excel because you're going to do some different data pieces or you want to do something automated, you can export this to Excel as well. It's also going to tell you if they have an active and locked term. So say I put in a plan for the next 5 years for a student, they're not going to automatically get their rack whenever the advising period starts. You do have to go in and review the plan and make it active and locked. We do that because we are very passionate about protecting some of those. We want you to talk to your students. We want you to have a meeting with your students. We want you to make sure that they haven't now decided that they're changing their major to something else, or their concentration sometime within some of your programs that could drastically change what we're planning for them. You do have direct links to DegreeWorks, and then also what they call the student loop page. So the loop is sort of the student information page. It does have some things that if you went directly into the student's DegreeWorks, that'll have a few similarities, but this is really more kind of that personal information. Is this student a part of any kind of program? Like, are they first gen? Are they an athlete? Are they a student parent? This student has got some academic trouble, so they've also got that little caution sign on academic progress. So this might mean that they're on academic probation. It might mean that they have 3 or more unsatisfactories. It's not like a big thing necessarily. It's just kind of something to catch your eye at the beginning and be like, hey, I need to look a little bit more into this student. There's also some quick links down the side that take you to a lot of different things. You can email out of this system. If you weren't the advisor, say you're the Success Center and you're looking at the loop, you can email the student's advisor if you need to loop them in. You've got direct links to DegreeWorks, the overrides, if you have access to overrides, and then it does have that retention predictor score. So that was kind of something I brought up a little bit more. There's a calculation done by our institutional research on students and their success rates based on lots of different parameters, and they will come and do a whole talk about exactly what those are. But if you are looking for something with a dashboard or something that you're really looking at different prediction models, this might be something that you want to utilize in some of those data requests. You can also fill out a not returning form. So say you're working with a student and we do have some automated emails. They're getting an email constantly that's saying, hey, you haven't registered. Hey, you haven't registered. Hey, you haven't registered. And you're their safe person. So they say, hey, I told you I'm not coming back this semester, or you know I'm transferring. You can fill out a not returning form on their behalf. That's going to stop that communication. I wouldn't do it unless you're absolutely sure. But if you're getting students like, someone keeps contacting me and I told you, that's something that you can definitely utilize. The notes and referral, which is something that Lindsay and I have mentioned several times. So this notes piece is used by lots of different people. If you ever work with a student that's been in Success First, you will see lots of notes by my team because we kind of have everybody's individually assigned, but we also work with a lot of the students together. So we try to keep everybody in the know, in the loop, you might say. But also the Success Center, first year courses, sometimes GSD instructors will sometimes make notes. The registrar's office, if a student is returning, may also make a note. So it's just kind of a good way to kind of get a feel on the student and see maybe if there's something you need to know before you meet with them. Referrals, we'll let you talk about this one.
So when you're when you're talking with the student, and like we mentioned earlier, if they mention they're having trouble with their financial aid or their student account, or getting their veteran, benefits, whatever the case may be. In the loop, you can go in and make a referral on that student's behalf. When you make a note in the loop, you can select, so you can refer them to a college campus advisor. So if they're wanting to change their major and maybe that major is out of your college, you can select that and direct them to the college where that major lives. And somebody will reach out. I did that last week with a student for health sciences. And I talked to the student, they wanted to change their major. I was like, I need to get you connected over there. Sent this out, someone from the professional advisor, so from that advising center, reached out to that student to connect with them. The second one that is new is graduate school. So if they are a current student and they are wanting to maybe do graduate work here, you can select that option and somebody will reach out to them about applying to grad school here and what that looks like. And then the student resource referral. This is the big piece because again, students might come to you and they're like, my aid hasn't paid out. Well, I don't want to say I love to tell students this, but I'm like, I am here to help you academically. I do not have access to your financial information because the financial folks don't have access to your academic, like they're not telling you what classes to take. I can't tell you what your refund looks like. And so you can select to refer a student to Big East Central, to El Centro, to the Success Center, to the Center for Student Accessibility if they're needing accommodations. So there's a bunch of options there that you can select to refer a student. And then what that does is it takes a little burden off the student and be like, hey, I'm going to refer you, somebody will be reaching out. And then someone from one of these offices gets notified and can connect with the student to see how they can help. And again, all of this is tracked in the loop. So it's all tracked in the notes. We can see who's been referred where and kind of where they are in that process of that follow-up.
I will say
Yeah.
one difference for student accessibility, just to make you guys aware, since accessibility documentation also often is a HIPAA issue. So we can't out someone's diagnosis to CSA, but on that one, there is a little
There's
button
an
that you
option.
click that says notify the student about services.
Yeah.
So that one's just a little bit different, but every other one, with the exception of the Dean of Students, that one is a little bit different. And Lindsay and I are going to work on the language that makes that one more transparent. That's feedback I got earlier. That's going to take you to the SAYIT. So if you're familiar with the SAYIT, so that's our student assistance and intervention team. So they're kind of our triage, or if you're having an issue with a student, if definitely they have told you something that you have to disclose to somebody, there's lots of ways to get into the SAYIT. This may not be the first way, but sometimes these happen in advising sessions. So we just want to make sure that there is also a link for that. The others are going to send a notice to the center. I would say also, if you're sending to Big East Central, I would still also encourage the student to contact Big East Central, just because depending on the time of year, Big East Central is a little bogged down. So oh, you had a question, I think.
Yeah, when you check the box there that says advisor referral, thank you. Who does it go to? Does it go to the faculty
For the
advisor?
college campus advisor, it goes to the advising center.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So if you were to refer a student to that first one, the college campus advisor.
Yes,
And then select a college.
yes.
That goes to the advising center
Okay,
of
advising
the
center.
college. So
Okay,
most likely the lead is
Okay.
checking that email and then triaging accordingly.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So, as Bethany kind of talked about, part of my role, trying to do some faculty and professional advisor workshops, to just only doing 4 this spring, because I'm just still trying to get my feet wet a little bit. But hopefully we'll offer more in the fall. So we just did one on referrals. I have that recording. I'm waiting on one part of the presentation from Big East Central to kind of get all that kind of packaged up together. But we've got 3 more this semester. There's a QR code if you are interested in signing up. But we're going to talk about availability and communication. And the role that plays in retention. That is our next one coming up the morning of March 23rd. April 1st, we're going to talk about mentorship and goal setting and the role advisors play in that. And then April 21st, we are going to get a little deeper into the loop and advising 360 and actually kind of get in there and poke around and look at some different things. Again, kind of first time at this, hoping to offer a lot more sessions in the fall semester. But again, just to think about what tools do advisors need? Like, what do you need to help you connect with students? And what resources does the university have that are going to make that easier? And how can we all kind of work together? Just some things to remember as we're working with students. I think we talked about this last week. And then I thought of it today. I'm like, do you remember your advisor in college? Like, and kind of how that made you feel? And was it a good relationship? Was it kind of a strained relationship? I know mine retired. And I feel like I didn't get anybody assigned to me. I was a junior, so I kind of knew all the faculty and, you know, things like that. But I think it's just really important to get to know your advisees. And like Dr. Winslow said, like, make some of those notes, like, haven't met you before. Because Bethany and I know sometimes you got several hundred and you're, you know, I'll talk to a student, they're like, the last time we talked, I'm like, yes, the last time we talked. What was your name again? And so just to try to get to know whatever works for you, to try to remember who you're talking to, kind of what their situation, what those career goals are. Ask them questions. How are things going? How are things going in your classes? You're going to see, especially if you have them in class, you're going to notice if something's going on with them. And again, there are resources available to the students and to you all. We want to make sure you all have what you need to work with these students as efficiently as possible. But we also want to make sure the students are kind of getting what they need. So again, they're not trying to, gosh, my advisor won't even meet with me. Don't lie. I do want to meet with you, so don't tell people that I'm not. And just because I was out of the office for a few days doesn't mean I don't want to meet with you. So again, just to try to, they appreciate encouragement. They appreciate you kind of taking the time. Last fall, in some of the communications, those encouragement progress report emails, 100% open rate. Like, that doesn't happen, right? And like, they were like, I thought I did a good job. Like,
I'm worried about that.
and so it's just great to kind of, and I tell students too, if they just call and they're like, hey, do you have time? I'm honest. I'm like, I don't have 30 minutes for you right now. Let's schedule a call. Because I want to give you my appointments are usually 30 minutes. I'm like, I want to give you 30 minutes uninterrupted time so that we can connect and I can answer all the questions.
So we'll hang out up here, just because sometimes you guys have other questions. But ultimately, we are
I
both
do
people.
have an advisor call.
Oh, just kidding. Not Lindsay,
But I'll just be right out there.
But we also,
probably
if you
won't
want to reach out to us, these initiatives are really important to us. So if you do have feedback, we are people that want to hear those things. We can't always promise immediate action, but we try to really gather, because that's something that's important to us, especially with our work in the retention committee. We really want to elevate voices that are helping us understand student experiences and helping students be successful. So if there's something, we can't promise that we have all the solutions, but we want to work towards all these systems working better for advisors.
Because you all got a lot going on in the classroom,
Yeah.
right? So,
Just a
how can
little.
we make it easier, when you're taking the time to
Yeah.
connect with these students, outside of class?
I don't know if we had any questions. I didn't even ask Chris. Sorry, did we have anyone on Zoom with questions? Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure everyone's really ready to go because it's spring break. We appreciate you guys just giving us some attention, and then I'll hang out here for a minute.
Well, I mean, all my stuff is still.
We are gonna send out the slides too, so if you want to access the QR code for the additional trainings, or if you have a recommendation on another training that you think advisors might need, if you're advising, we plan those types of things usually kind of in a cycle, but also can do things, as kind of a pop-up if necessary. So, thank you all.
Thanks, all.
Thanks.
Oh, and welcome to EKU, right? Like, I'm glad you're here.
Welcome to spring break. Welcome to spring break.
Now, welcome to spring break.
But
Get signage, please.
yeah, sign in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Bet you're close. Oh, I thought I heard the ring.